Welcome, everybody. We'll let more people arrive. Feel free to turn on your cameras, say hello. Love seeing your faces.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Irene.
Hi.
Hey, Susie. Hi, Basha. And Kathy's here. And Kiri's here. A lot of names I know. Hi, everybody. And Tisha. Oh, it's early for you, Tisha. Hey, Kathy. All right. I'm giving people one more minute before I dive in. I have the 3-minute rule. In the meantime, we're gonna sit for a moment and chat about the season, and then just have your normal props around, I would say. Blocks, blanket, some kind of cushion of sorts. It's always, we can always be makeshift, so. Actually, that reminds me, I'm gonna get a strap out so I don't have to rummage through my props later, but something, it doesn't have to be a strap, it could be a scarf, it could be something. I forgot to get that out. Right. So welcome again to those I don't know. My name is Abby Paloma. Thanks for joining. And I don't always get to lead these classes on the day, but today is actually the summer solstice in our time zone here. I think it's officially at, I think on the East Coast here at 10:42 p.m. And I think there's confusion sometimes. It's like, is it the 20th? Is it the 21st? Is like, which day is it? And it does actually fluctuate because, there's 365.3 days in the year. It also depends on kind of like what time of day it falls, which day it's on, just for the fellow nerds in the room who wanted to know about why the day fluctuates. But what is this day? We might have heard it, like colloquial, have like a little bit of understanding, but for me, I have these seasonal classes around the equinoxes and solstices because it's these, like it's a cardinal point, like, the map, we have these cardinal points of our seasons, and typically we understand this day to be the longest day of the year, kind of the birth into summer. It's in the northern hemisphere, it's where the sun is at the the poles of its ellipse that it makes in relationship to the earth. And so we have the longest days. And in Chinese medicine, we talk about everything in relationship to yin and yang. Yin and yang is the foundational or relational aspects of the oneness that is everything. And so it's easier for us to talk about it in terms of yin and yang. And for those of you not that familiar with talking about it, it's just, you could kind of divide anything as divisible to yin and yang. So like for, really simple, day is yang, yin is night, light, dark, heavy, light, feminine, masculine, everything is divisible into these kind of properties. And so today is what we would call, the height of yang. The sun has kind of reached its culmination. And from here, we're actually kind of falling into summer. We're actually beginning, sometimes the energetics of today is actually the birth of yin. While we celebrate the height of yang, it is actually the return of the receiving, because up until this point through spring, it's kind of been churning and growing and growing and growing and growing. And now it's like the fruits of our labor that we get to actually receive. And I wanted to make the analogy of like the height of yang to what we would talk about as like high noon, like it's the high noon of the calendar year. And this expression of like the peak of the sun. And so a lot of you who've studied with me for a while, I know, I like to always like, well, what are the plants doing? What's nature doing at this time? So what are the plants doing at peak yang, right? They're making themselves as open and receptive to receive all that free energy, all that free sunlight, to metabolize that. And that's kind of in a way my question for you in summertime is like, how do we actually make ourselves the most able to receive and be receptive at this time of when there's this abundance of energy and beautiful foods and flowers and hopefully good weather, even though on the East Coast here we have a tremendous amount of rain this summer. So that's kind of this first message of like, well, it's, yes, this peak kind of yang time, we think of party time, but it's actually the birth of yin, and how can we allow ourselves to be open to receive everything, not necessarily trying to like fight fire with fire, which fire is the element of the summer season. It's about counterbalancing the inner and the outer worlds. So the outer worlds is peak yang fire. So how do we be in correspondence to that? How do we be relational to that rather than same? And the other thing that, my intention for the summer that I'm sharing with you, and that hopefully maybe inspires you, is, I was thinking about, we optimize for so many things. We optimize for efficiency, and we live in a world of just like overloaded with like wellness tracking. And what does it look like to optimize for joy and playfulness this season? And I'm not necessarily talking about like what I wrote down, the FOMO social media joy, this ecstatic kind of like, we're so happy, we're having so much fun. I'm talking about the subtle joy, the little smirk that is just for yourself. The joy in being rather than doing. And I know that, it's difficult times in the world, and we're in a difficult moment, just climate and world politics, and maybe there's, sometimes it's hard to find joy if there's sickness and illness and dying in the world that always is. But the little joy, like of just in slowing down to allow yourself to be with something that can lift the corners of your lips. And it can be just for you. It doesn't have to be broadcasted to the world and, turn into a dopamine hit. And I invite you to, if you want, to make that your practice this season too. So the one quote, I always go back to is we're human beings, not human doings. So can you let yourself be with joy more? And then the the last thing I'll say before we get started is just herbs for the season. I'm gonna share a link to my seasonal herb bundle, but Tulsi and basil are the queen of summer. So if you have access to those plants, just the fragrance and aliveness, it's definitely, Tulsi is the medicinal version of basil, but I highly recommend that, or eating lots of basils, just the fragrance are very good. Hibiscus, mints, lemon balms, like all these kind of cooling herbs are lovely. And this is the one time of year too that we can actually eat and digest more raw foods because the environment is warmer. So it's always good to pay attention to see how well you're handling that, if you're constitutionally in a place to handle those raw foods. And yeah, so joy, receive, human being. Got it? It's your assignments. And now we will practice. So I'll move over to my mat, and we're going to start actually with a little meditation to get centered. So I prefer to sit in a kneeling position. If that is too much for your knees, you can join in any seated position, like the bonus foot stretch here. Let yourself settle. I'm adjusting the flesh of my knees. So there's less pulling. I'm letting the weight of my pelvis really sit towards the heel bones. Just checking if my feet are extra curved. And as I'm settling, I'm allowing my spine to be open to gravity. So not in resistance to gravity, but actually feel the structure and alignment of my spine. If I let my weight down, if I let my weight down through my legs, if I let the weight travel through my spine, there's actually a natural rising up. There's a Tao Te Ching quote, the heaviness is the root of lightness. So find that downward energy that allows the natural upward rising. It's the same with yin and yang. Find the anchor that allows the yang to rise. Allow the breath to arise. When we sit, it's not a static thing. There's endless fine tuning. So I'm constantly adjusting the position of my spine and pelvis for the balance between relaxation and uprightedness. So in general, the more I can align in the relaxation of my form allows the current of uprightedness to flow. And we'll take our hands into a mudra I don't use very often, Yana mudra, index finger and thumb together, and then just let your hands rest on the thighs, face up. But I want you to play with this subtlety of where your thumb and index fingers are actually touching here. Just gently letting the thumbs move around the index fingers, or the index fingers move around the thumbs. Almost like you're feeling like, for this connectivity, for the, where does the current run? Where does the spark emerge? Maybe you feel it for a second and it passes, or maybe you feel it really strong and you stay there. Spend a couple more moments here in our meditation, eyes open or closed. There's nothing that we're searching for. Again, it's the process of allowing, getting out of our own way. Allow there to be spaciousness. Allow your structure to rest on the earth. And only an invitation, not forcing this, but if there is some spaciousness that arises, in the sweetness of that spaciousness, perhaps lift the corners of your lips just slightly. If it feels too much to smile outwardly, maybe you can invite an inner smile. So just close our stillness practice here with a gentle bow, mostly towards ourselves. Here, just honoring the moment that arose. And as we start to emerge, we'll just, if you're seated in another position, you can meet us here, but we're going to stretch the tops of the toes and bring the knees back down, now stretching the soles of the feet. From here, maybe you can balance coming up onto the toes, and on the toes, twisting your body, separating the feet apart. And now one heel is up, one foot is down, separating the knees, switching sides, twisting my head, twisting my spine. opening up the hips. Maybe the hands stay on the floor. Maybe the hands come to the knees. Maybe the hands start to twist with you. Come back to that perch position. I'll have to adjust the camera in a second, but I want you to feel like you're pulled from a string from the top of the head, coming straight up, and you're going to stay on your tippy toes. So coming up nice and slow, stay on the tippy toes. And then you can touch the fingers to the sides of your body and lift the arms all the way up overhead. Stretch your palms overhead. Lift the heels. Try to keep the neck relaxed. We got a playful cat here dancing in my practice. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Can you stretch and root? So can you reach up with the fingertips and down with the inner heels, but still keep the heels lifted? And then slowly sink the heels down. Just rock on your feet back and forth. So I adjust this a little bit more for standing. So rocking on the toes, rocking on the heels, toes, heels, toes, heels. You can even let the arms swing. So as I land on my heels, my arms go forward. That counterbalances me. As I go to my toes, my arms go back. So the counterbalance, right? Being complementary to the outer world, not matching. And then for some of you, you might want to stay with this type of motion, or we can start to hop, hop. So as you land, you're rolling back on the heels, coming up onto your toes. And it's not necessarily how high you come up. Can you land softly, almost like you're making barely any sound here? And if that gets too exhausting, then just come back. Just come back. Maybe the jumping makes you smile. Just make me smile for a moment. Then slow it down. Slow it down. And just standing. Just like before, we were just sitting. Meditation is a fancy word for just being. I'll guide you through the first couple rounds of this, and then we'll just continue on our own. So inhale, you'll lift the arms up, and you'll make kind of like this triangle with the hands. And I keep my head level with my arms, almost like I'm kind of at a precipice. A little bit more weight in my toes. I let the spine fall. Release the spine. I bring my hands to the inner arches of the feet. And then I press my hands into my legs. lengthen my spine, and I kind of use that pressure of my hands into my legs to float the spine up, press the spine up. And then the hands come to the hips, almost like I'm spreading. Bend into the knees, and we'll take this back bend. Don't be greedy, it's our first one. We will have several rounds to warm up. Just gently arching back, letting the ribs open across the chest, and then inhale, come up with the arms, and we'll continue. Folding down. Let yourself move slow, stay awake. By stay awake, this can be very challenging. Pressing the hands into the legs, lifting up. This is not just like, oh, easy, I'm not doing anything. The more awake you are, the more you pay attention. It's actually very dynamic. Inhale, come up. Activate your whole body. Everything is awake in this. It's not easy peasy passive. Stay alert. Stay active. Feel the feet pressing. Feel the legs working. Take your moment of relaxation in the fold. And hands press, and use the strength of the legs to float the spine up. We're chasing our channels here, drawing that yin energy up. Spreading. Rising. So start to get into your own flow. If you get lost, you can come join me wherever I am. We're going to do 6 more rounds if you feel like counting. And if you somehow beat me, we'll meet in standing meditation. Notice as you get more supple each round, maybe your spine feels smoother in the back bends. This is my last one. Back to standing. And we'll come now into a more kind of improvising exercise. So we're going to balance on one foot. We're going to make it more playful, more dynamic. And I want you to move as freely as possible. And, don't be too afraid of falling, right? If you fall, you just catch your balance for a second. It's not a big deal. But let's strengthen our legs, maybe bring a smile and some joy, and move a little wildly. Maybe you touch the ground. If you reach up, try to find the reaches of your empire. Again, if you fall, no big deal. I didn't say how long we're doing this, just the rest of class. Just kidding. Let's go. We'll try. My intention is at least, a minute and a half here. So play. Maybe if you hop, if you lose your balance, but try not to get too stuck in that. That will be exhausting. But almost like, this surrender of summer, just perennially falling, and catching yourself. Finding the ground. And if you just keep letting yourself fall, you realize you don't have to balance at all. Keep going, keep going. All right. And then just walk it out on that leg. Walk around. I don't know about you. I'm smiling now. That was fun. All right. And then now you know what's coming. So we have our other leg. So have fun. Again, you're just falling, and catching yourself and falling. Breathing. Don't hold your breath. Let go of your neck. We really like to control the world with our neck. We think that the tighter we hold our head, the more in control of our external surroundings. Notice how one leg is quite different from the other side. How interesting. Breathing, moving, falling, surrendering, letting go, smiling. You can even sound, ha, or whatever expression. Summer is very much about, art is about expression and body language, and voice, movement, joy. And if you think we're even, then walk it out to the other side. Okay, and then you can walk around and find your strap or whatever you want to use as a strap. So the fire channels, the fire is the element of summer, of the heart organ. And unlike any other of the seasons, there's actually 4 channels responsible for fire in the body, and they're all in the upper body, surrounding the chest and the arm space. So it's a simple exercise, so you don't have to push it, but we're gonna hold the strap and just crossing up and over the shoulders. As you open up, you might choke up a little bit on the strap. Again, as you open up, maybe you get a little bit closer, just feeling that nice stretch across the chest, the pecs. Can choke up even more and maybe start going side to side, kind of weaving yourself through. Just don't hit yourself in the head with the metal buckle. That wasn't so pleasant. I'm choking up even more. I'm actually going to fold it in half. I have to kind of bend and weave myself through. Again, just playing, exploring, creating a boundary for yourself to explore and move. Okay, let's put the strap down. And we'll come into downward facing dog, yoga pose. We're going to use down dog to free up our head and neck a little bit. So in dog pose, really let your head hang here. And move your head and neck. Like you're rocking and rolling through your head. And I don't know what kind of space you have, but if you have space, even if you just end up walking forward and back, you can kind of like take your dog pose for a little walk while moving your head. Letting go of the control of your neck. I'm sorry, guys, your neck does not rule the world. Does not. So forward, back, you can kind of even just kind of walk in place while moving your neck, letting your spine undulate. Remembering you are an animal. You have an animal body. You don't need some perfect form. You can actually just move. Be free in our movements. All right, and then bring the knees down. Let's take a rest in child's pose just for a moment. Find that moment of receiving, surrender. And then we'll move through what I would call a very modified free-form sun salutation, but I more invite you actually to make it what I would call a bow or a prostration. So can actually come up to hands and knees and can slide right onto the belly for the first round. Stretch your arms out face down, let your full body weight into the ground. And then push up, back, downward facing dog. Forward to plank pose, either lower down all the way or knees, chest, and shin. Release yourself all the way to the ground. Stretch the spine as you come up, an upward facing dog or cobra. And then push back. And you're really starting to generate your own pace and rhythm here. Be forward and surrendering. Belly to the earth. Let go. Rising, stretching, chest open, and back. Let's do 3 more. You really let the movement feel good. Don't be greedy for what you think it should look like. Then we'll meet in child's pose one more time. And then as you come up, come sit on your knees. And I want you to bring one leg forward outside your hand and lunge yourself forward. And then we'll switch sides. Other foot. Lunge yourself forward. And then again, I don't know how much room you have to play. You can start to wander off your mat. But we can almost turn this action into a little crawl. And I bring my other foot forward and my hands and knee down. And go back the other way. But one foot steps forward, I pull myself with my hands, that knee comes down, the other foot comes forward. It's okay if you end up in circles. I don't have that big of a space here. I'm kind of going side to side to optimize the space. So knee down, pull yourself forward with your arms. Okay, and then we'll return to our mats. Come up to stand. We're going to take what sometimes we call mountain pose or horse stance. I guess it's different in traditional yoga, but I'm going to, feet are turned out just a little bit. I'm sinking down through the pelvis, not overly tucking, really just letting pelvis float. It's like your pelvis is floating on the ocean here, just floating. And then from here, we're going to use the strength of the legs and float up onto the tippy toes. Keep the heels lifted. I like the movement matching with the arms. So heels are lifted, but I start to bend my knees into that squat. And stay here. And then see if you can let the hips go lower, keeping the low back relaxed as you sink the heels down. And then I'm going to push down with my hands as I straighten through my legs. Drag my hands up the body, finding that upward current, reaching the hands above the head. And then bending the knees as I lower the arms like I'm hugging a tree. Keep the heels lifted. Float the pelvis, relax the lumbar. So the lumbar really can want to hold the back in an arch here, but just let it soften. Release the heels, sink a little deeper. And push up. Like you're pulling your fascia, you're pulling the skin up as you rise. Bending the knees, heels lifted, sinking. Lower the heels, keep the lumbar released. Push down, stretch up. Go in your own rhythm. Couple more rounds. Two more, wherever you are. Heel toe the feet together. Shake out your leg. Shake out your leg. Okay. So I would love for you to have 2 blocks. If you don't have 2 blocks, some kind of cushion or something to put your hips on. Okay. So we're gonna actually come lie down on the back and take a modified bridge position. And we're not using the blocks quite just yet. Sorry, we're gonna get there. That's what the blocks are for. But first, I just want you to kind of make hip circles with the pelvis on the ground, kind of like you're kind of like wobbling around on your sacrum, massaging the femurs into the hips, moving in different directions, circles, figure eights. Wag your tailbone side to side so you're kind of hip hiking. Rock back and forth so you're finding that anterior posterior movement. Free your pelvis. And eventually see if you can find what would be a neutral position that you can equally weight between right and left hip. You can feel weight down through the backs of the ribs. So you're not pressing your lumbar down, but you are also don't have this huge dome under your back. So you feel like you have access to breath through the back lower ribs. And we'll do a couple of active rounds of bridge before we grab the blocks. So as you inhale, you're gonna lift the hips, lift the arms overhead. And then as you exhale, come down. And we're just gonna move with the breath, just like that. Don't force the breath. Let the breath be. Let the breath be however it wants to be. Just make sure you're inhaling and exhaling and not holding. So expanding and allowing. Seeing if you can arise all together, both sides of your hips, both legs, both arms. Next time you come down, you can grab your bricks. So it's possible that the 2 bricks are too much, which in case you can go down to 1 on a medium height. So lift the hips up. Really, we want to position the bricks very well. So feel like the sacrum is well
placed, balanced on the bricks here. So it should feel like my tailbone is hanging off the bolts or off the bricks, the blocks rather. And then I have this nice arch, so it doesn't feel like my neck's being compressed. Just feel like this free flow across the belly, off the chest. If you have room, you can separate the arms nice and wide. Sometimes I like to spend quite a few minutes just feeling where my pelvis is with my hands, giving myself a little biofeedback if I need to make any like fine tune adjustments. So especially if you kind of have chronic hip alignment stuff, you might want to just see like, can you settle yourself more in an even position? And then eventually stop fidgeting and just allow yourself. Can you just receive this pose? Could you receive this opening of the chest? So in the height of yang, can we be the height of open? You can either stay exactly where you are, or if you'd like, you can play with extending the legs up into the air. And I like to call them seaweed legs. Just allowing the legs to move around. Almost like you're massaging the sacrum on the block. Twist or move. Be playful. Follow what feels good. I was reading through my notes of last solstice and I said, trust your bumbling. Let yourself bumble and trust it. And then draw right knee in, lengthen the left leg. Ideally, that left foot's touching the ground. Feeling that nice opening across the left hip, front body. And then we'll switch. In again and gently both feet down. See if you can bring the feet wide and knees together, taking a little bit more of that internal rotation. You might start to feel an anterior pull of the pelvis. And then parallel the feet, and we'll press up and just lower down to one block. Acclimate, that was a pretty big lift, so we're just re-acclimating and then lifting and lowering the pelvis all the way down. Once the pelvis is all the way down, you can come back to that internal rotation of the thigh bones, knees together, feet wide. And let's just wash the hips here. Full body windshield wiper, head turn, arms are moving, neck is turning, eyes are moving. Fingers are wiggling, toes are wiggling. You can stretch out your face, your jaw, make sounds, wrists. Stretch the arms above head. Maybe start to roll up like you're gonna press up, but then collapse back down and go to the other side, press up and collapse. I'm just switching my orientation. You can probably stay where you are, but we're gonna end up in kind of this 90-90 with the legs when you come up. And we're gonna come up so much so that I try to not use my hands, press down with the legs. Hopefully you're on a mat. Spiral the calves, the shins, and sit down 90-90 again with the legs. So we're really using the counterbalance of the external rotators on one side and the inner adductors on the other side, pressing down, coming up, and then controlling, lowering down. And then we'll come into seated version. So you want your feet to be shin distance apart. And we'll just come back to that windshield wiper, twisting through the spine. Pushing down into the floor, almost like you're gonna, again, like collapse, but push up. Active stretching. Okay. So now I think it's time for us to get a few more props. And in the kind of theme of opening the chest and its channels and being just open to receiving in general, I'd like our rest pose to be a little bit more of what we would call a back bend or opening posture. And there's several ways to create that. It could be just one pillow under your back. If you have more props around, what I'm gonna do is one block and a bolster. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm actually only gonna do the lowest level. So it's just a little bit of a ramp here. And again, depending on what you got, you can add more or be more minimalist. So you could add a second little blanket or pillow under the head. And it could, just that is really nice. If you wanted more support under the knees, you could do something rolled up or even blocks underneath the knees. All right. So when we get into a posture like this, you want to make sure you're not sitting on the bolster, but it's right next, close to you. and feel like the upper body, the whole torso is just open, and like the ribs can just fold open the sternum. Arms, palms up, biceps open, elbows heavy. And when we're in this posture, we just want to take the first couple moments to actually intentionally move the eyes through space and relax the face. So I want you to look all the way up with the eyes, all the way down. So you're not moving your face, you're moving your eyes all the way to the right, all the way to the left, up, down, right, left. Now reverse, down, up, left, right. And now we're gonna do our diagonals. So northwest, southwest, northeast, southeast, until you just start to spiral and circle your eyes. And then until you let the eyelids close. Soften your face. Let yourself be supported by the ground.
And I will be your timekeeper. We won't go over time. So I know on virtual land, it's extra easy to not be accountable for rest. So please, if you have the time, give yourself permission to have this rest where you don't have to hold the clock. I got you. Let it be easy. And if it's not easy, then witness that. Be with that. Begin to deepen your breath. Just observe your body at rest. Rub your fingers together, your thumbs across your fingers, feeling for that spark of connectivity again. Let your knees bend. Roll to your side and take a couple breaths on your side. Come up to a seated posture. This is a quote I wanted to read to you. I love this quote. It's very summer when we're thinking about the flowers. It's by Anise Nin. The day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Life is a process of becoming. So I wish you a very happy and joyful summer solstice, and as many times as you can remember, it's the season of receiving, that you can be available to receive more. It's not about how much you're doing. So more being, less doing, more openness, and to not grasp for the joy. Let the joy arise, be with it, and let it pass, and let it arise again. Thank you guys so much, and happy summer. And I'll stick around if there's any questions, but I'm very honored to be here with you. Thank you. Thanks, Tisha. Bye, Susie. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Abby.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
It's
Thanks,
beautiful.
Dee.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelsey. Thanks, Irene. I love my cat too. Thanks, Renee.